Thank you, Laura. You know, we've all heard about community gardens, which we're seeing actually a renaissance as you're seeing more of a push for locally grown foods. But the Quad Cities also has broken ground on a new twist on that. It is called the Quad City Food Forest. Work began on the forest on Davenport's west side last month, and last week we talked with one of the organizers, Chris Rice, about the new project. So it was the groundbreaking of the Blackhawk Gardens Community Food Forest. Tell me, I've never heard of a food forest. What is a food forest?
A food forest is an agricultural or land management technique where edible trees, fruits, shrubs, nuts, and all are grown together in a system that mimics a natural woodland, and it's all the layers and.
Because I always think of a community garden, you know, and it's kind of community garden, but with trees.
It's like a community garden, but much larger, and it should also require less maintenance once established, so that in the future, I look at it in 200 years, if you came back and nobody did anything, you may not find the same trees, but you should find the same kind of trees because it'll naturalize.
So tell me, I mean, who's getting involved? I mean, this seems to be very much volunteer work.
It is volunteer work. We had 100 people at the groundbreaking approximately helping plant the first trees, and it's just people that have stepped up from the community who think it's a good idea. It's also important, the involvement with the city of Davenport. It's been a partnership between the two, and without them we couldn't do this. They've been wonderful and have really done a lot to help.
Well, let's talk about what's going on in our society right now, because you think of all of the farmers markets growing locally, eating locally, shopping locally, and this really is kind of grassroots, that exact experience that seems to be catching on more and more. What was fringe is now more mainstream.
That's exactly what it is. And one thing I want to emphasize about the food forest is we don't just want to put all these things in one place. We want people to take it home with them. We want them, the educational component cannot be overemphasized, that people will be able to see these plants that they never heard of from around the world that are food-bearing perennials, and they'll look at it and say, hey, I can grow that at my house. And we want to teach them how to collect the seeds or grafting or whatever it takes to reproduce that plant and take it home and grow it in their own yard, because there's nothing more local than food in your own backyard.
Well, I'm talking about a forest that's also a laboratory, that's also an education center. You have everything going on right there. Well,
that's the idea.
And we're talking also, because you were talking about bringing plants, seeds, and other items from out of this area, but there's plenty of natural trees, shrubs, and plants that you'll be using as well.
Yes, the area that we have used to be homes, and because of periodic flooding, they were torn down and nothing can ever be built there. They're either going to mow it or they're going to have trees. So there's still streets and alleys there, and we're going to have different sections. The first section that we planted is going to be all native plants that are going to be represented in this section. We also hope to have a section that would be a small vineyard, and being that the Concord grapevine is the easiest grape to grow here, takes the least maintenance and is very vigorous. It's right off South Concord Street, and we can call it the South Concord Vineyard. And we also would like to have a small orchard where it's plants that require high maintenance and a lot of, you know, they're highly cultivated plants that require a lot of maintenance. And then other parts where it's like edible landscaping with all the perennials from around the world. A stipulation would be that none of them would be invasive.
I was going to say invasive because you don't want it to grow out of control.
We're not going to introduce any invasive species.
Give me an idea of what you would be introducing, because you talked about Concord grapes, you know, and that is maybe not native to this area, but it grows very well to this area. What else might be somewhere on these plots?
Well, like for a vining plant, there's kiwis, which there's actually ones that thrive in colder climates like ours, and they're smaller and they don't have fuzz. There's all kinds of plants like the Cornelian cherry, which is a dogwood type tree that has edible fruit that are popular in Eastern Europe. There's
you talk about nuts and pecans and
everything. The nuts and pecans, what we planted on our first section was native edibles, and on last Saturday we planted American persimmon, pawpaw, pecan, and chestnut. And those trees are all native to here. So,
well, it's really kind of interesting because you don't really think of it as a forest, because you, like I said, you think of the community garden, not the community forest. Do we see this around the area? I mean, where's the nearest community forest, edible landscape in this area.
Iowa City has one that they've been working on for about 3 years called the Weatherby Park Edible Forest. There's one in Cedar Rapids, and there's talk of one in Dubuque.
Okay, and so you've started right now. I mean, we've got some of the preliminary work already underway at the location. Tell me, when does it come to fruition? When are you able to actually, I don't know, harvest some of the crops that you're planting?
Well, we're going to be working on establishing this for a long time.
That's what's important.
There's quite as much area there. We'll be putting out some plants next year that within a year, like serviceberry bushes and such, that should have at least some berries. But you're looking at 5 years easily on a lot of fruit berry plants, and some like nut trees won't be in full production for probably 20 years.
It does take a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, they say that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now. So we're doing it now.
Well, and you've got partnerships going on as well, because I mean, this is something that it really does take a community to create a forest.
Yes, we have the Quad City Food Hub has been partnering with us. Also, Food Corps has been partnering with us. The Echo Arts Council has partnered with us. We our partner by far that we could not do this without is the city of Davenport. They've provided land for us that basically couldn't be used for anything else, but are giving us this opportunity. And the city arborist has been wonderful. He actually wanted to do this for a long time, but didn't have the support of the community and the volunteers, and so we're all working together on this.
And that's where I want to go next, Chris, is the volunteers. How does somebody get involved in something like this?
Well, we're only 5 months old. We had a presentation, and at the presentation, I asked everybody, well, who's going to do this? And everybody raised their hand, and I said, who's going to be there in 5 years? And everybody raised their hand. And not all of those people are still here, and we've picked up others on the way, but we're growing as an organization at the same time as we're growing these plants. And we can be contacted on Facebook.
I was going to say, you got a great Facebook page. I mean, you got nice pictures of the groundbreaking, and you're always going to update information there. So give me the Facebook page.
The Facebook is Quad City Food Forest, and you can just type QC.EdibleLandscape into your browser bar when you're on Facebook. And we also have an email list at QC.EdibleLandscape.com.
That's Chris Rice from the Quad City Food Forest. Thanks for taking some time as we talk about the issues on the cities.